Joining me live for more is David Flint, Professor of Law at Australians for a Constitutional Monarchy. David, thanks for your time today. We've seen such a huge crowds turn out in London post-COVID for these Platinum Jubilee celebrations. Has there ever been a more popular monarch than Queen Elizabeth II?
I certainly don't remember one. I can remember the previous monarch, the King, but certainly Elizabeth is probably the most popular of monarchs. And we've never before had a Platinum Jubilee of a monarch. And she seems to be the model for the sort of monarch we need under the current system of monarchy. That is, she provides leadership above politics. She's completely given to service, and she puts her foot right on every occasion. What more could we want?
Well, how unique is that in a monarch? I mean, I know we've had Queen Elizabeth II for 70 years now, but it seems that she's managed to avoid controversy for much of her reign.
That's true. That hasn't stopped, for example, the London media, when Diana died, from turning their attention to her because they wished to distract attention from themselves in relation to Diana, and they carried on about there being no flag at half-mast on the palace, and that the young princes were being kept in Scotland rather than being brought down to London immediately, and she was much attacked over that. And her popularity did go down, but it was very brief. And that certainly wasn't the wrong thing to do. She did nothing wrong there. She's certainly been the most spectacularly moral monarch that could be imagined, and the suggestion that she be known as Elizabeth the Great is most appropriate because of her service. But we've had very good monarchs in the system since the Westminster system was brought in under just before Victoria. They've all performed very well. She has probably been the best known because of modern methods of communication, and she's reigned the longest, and in a time when obviously the world needed this constancy and stability. And this is the centre of our political system. We've decided to adopt the British system, and it does require that we have leadership above politics, and the Queen, with the Governors-General and the Governors, provides that within our constitutional context.
Well, you speak there of the London media. I think the London media and the media more broadly has more recently been quite fixated on the rift between Harry and Meghan and other members of the royal family. How important was it that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex were there in London with their children for this event?
Well, it was very nice that they be there, very good for the family, but obviously they couldn't appear on the balcony because they've voluntarily decided to abandon any role as working royals, as they're called, and they've decided to go on their own career in the United States, to which they are perfectly entitled, and I don't think they should be criticised for that. Some of the things said may be criticised, but they certainly create international media interest. The monarchy has always been something of interest to the media, much more than, say, a presidential system, and this is natural. This is because we feel we know them. We know a lot about them. There's a certain intimacy between a monarch and the people, and this has been increased very much by the modern media, in that we see her almost every day, and we see what she does, and we read about their activities. A royal family is very interesting, and obviously when there are little problems like that of Harry and his wife and what happened in relation to Andrew, these will create great interest.
The Queen said she won't be attending the service at... Sorry, continue.
The really important thing is the constitutional system in Australia. It's very interesting, it's wonderful to have the Queen, but we have this constitutional system which requires that there be, in every state and in the Commonwealth, there be leadership above politics. It requires that that person be a constitutional guardian to ensure that the processes work properly. And having at the very top the Queen, to whom any recommendation must be made for the removal, for example, of a governor or governor-general, is highly appropriate, because This system is it's very sensitive, it's very delicate, it's been subjected to trial and error. It wasn't designed by some academic in an ivory tower saying this is the sort of system you must have. And I think the stability and the good working of that part of the system has been demonstrated by the enormous inability of the Republicans to produce a model, and they produced 3 over about 25 years, all of which have been shown to be failures and not at all attractive to the Australian people. It's very hard to graft a politician's republic onto what is basically designed as a constitutional monarchy. And it is foolish to attempt to do that. What the Republicans should be doing is producing a model which is a completely new system and persuading the Australian people that that would be better than what we have. I'm beginning to think that they can't do that because they've had 25 years. They had an enormous investment of money and time, politicians' time particularly, and they failed on the last occasion. They didn't get the national majority, they got no state, and they lost in 72% of electorates. In fact, it was a landslide. And to go on about it now, I think it's most inappropriate.
Could we not, though, David Flint,
Could
we not, just to have the more simple model, could we not just replace the head of state, the Queen, with an Australian and keep the rest of the system operating as it does at the moment?
Well, every government of Australia, whenever the Governor-General goes on a state visit overseas, assures the foreign government that the Governor-General is the head of state. And in 1907, the High Court, consisting of people who wrote the Constitution, said that the Governor-General is the constitutional head of the Commonwealth. So we've got an Australian as head of state. We've got a wonderful system, but on top of that, we also have the Queen. Why haven't the Republicans been able to design this simple system that they talked about? The one that they put to the people in 1999 was an extraordinary one in which the President could be sacked by the Prime Minister without notice, without any grounds whatsoever, and without any right of appeal. It was to turn the President into the Prime Minister's puppet, to make the Prime Minister even more powerful than he or she is now. And that was very dangerous, and the people rejected it. Now they've got this curious system whereby every parliament, even the territory parliaments, each to nominate a candidate, a political deal. The federal parliaments have 3 candidates, another political deal. The president's to have no reserved powers, so he can't control the Prime Minister. And every 5 years we're going to spend $500 million on an election to elect another politician. I don't think the Australian people want a politicians' republic. We've got enough politicians. They are doing enough damage. Do we want another?
Well, I think there are probably a lot of people who would agree with you, but it will be interesting to see where this Republican debate goes over the next few years. Now we have a new Labor government. David Flint, thanks so much for joining us on Afternoon Agenda today.